each other. They're the ones we want to hear. Sometimes you throw them out and they come right back and just trickle down your ear. And other times you take a chance.
Welcome to Bluegrass Brooklyn, the podcast all about the music we love. Coming to you straight from the Bluegrass borough of Brooklyn, New York.
When they left you barely breathing, but the girls all look the same when they're leaving. When they're leaving.
Here we are, episode 7. My name is Liz Wolfe.
And I'm Mike Wilner.
And we are very excited to be doing today's episode because we are featuring a new theme, Women in Bluegrass. And these are women that we've gotten to know that are not only fabulous musicians, but fabulous people. And our first interview is with Vickie Vaughn. She is known, of course, as a 2-time Bass Player of the Year winner. And she plays bass for Della. She's just been signed and she's coming out with her own single.
Didn't we just hear a snip of that single in our intro?
We did indeed. And something people don't know about Vickie is she was actually trained classically for her voice before she was ever a bass player. I want you bass players to particularly pay attention because she gives some great jamming tips for bass players.
And we get to hear from Hillary Hawke. We caught up to her at Jalopy Theater before her performance with her band, the Hawke Band. And we also got to catch up with Maddie Berger. She's a master fiddler. She hosts a player session at Mathilda's here in Brooklyn. And she's the music director for End of All Flesh and the Fringe Festival running in April. So we got a lot going on in this episode.
Yes, we do. And we have a lot going on in Brooklyn. These amazing women musicians that are based out of here. And of course, our honorary Brooklynite, Vickie Vaughn. So let's get to it.
Yep. Oh, before we go, please remember to follow us at Bluegrass Brooklyn, spelled BKLYN on Instagram. Also, there's a Bluegrass Brooklyn Facebook group. And what about your Uptown Jampire, Liz?
BluegrassJamsNearMe.com. Come and play with me and Ron. And it's getting warmer, so we're going to be playing outside soon.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's roll.
Hi, Vickie. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, it's so exciting. Thank you for joining. All right. And so you are in Nashville right now, and it is below freezing, evidently.
Yes, it's supposed to snow. I guess whoever's listening needs to know that every time I talk to Liz, it snows in Nashville. So she's like Elsa from Frozen. She makes it snow in Nashville.
It's only a little bit warmer in Nashville than it is in New York right now, but that is true. Vickie came to New York City to do a bass masterclass with me.
Mhm.
And let me just tell you, this is one dedicated musician. It was, how many inches of snow did you get in Nashville that
I
time?
think 5, which is unheard of.
And her flight got canceled, and then she flew all the way from Nashville to Kansas City and then to New York City so she could make this 3-hour masterclass. And if you don't think that's dedication, I don't know what is.
You know, I had such a good time. It was worth it.
As you know, if you're listening to this and you've heard some of my other segments, I'm very interested in the jamming scene. And I'm very curious to get some jamming knowledge and expertise and also some, as I call them, jamecdotes from really cool people. So, but tell us a little bit first, Vickie, just about what your musical adventures are right now, what you're working on.
Right now, okay, I am still on the road full-time with Della and just love that. We just got out of the studio last week, Liz. I don't know if I told you that, but we've recorded our first 7 songs of our next record. It's funny because this year has been full of recording for me so far, and I'm used to recording. I've recorded in studio. I've done plenty of studio work, but this year's been a little more intense. I recorded for Wes Corbett's upcoming record a couple weeks back, and it was just like a star-studded cast in the studio. It was Sierra Hull, Bronwyn Keith Hines, Jason Carter, Brian Sutton, and Wes Corbett, and Casey Campbell. Wes plays banjo in Sam Bush's band, and it was awesome. And then so the week after that, Della got in the studio, and we've done some recording with Dierks Bentley, and then we did some recording for the Steve Martin project, and also our very own upcoming record. So yeah, it's just been a really busy winter in the studio, but I like it. I'm used to being on the road all the time. I'm used to touring constantly. So staying at home and working is welcome. I'm loving it. But my very first debut solo record is also on its way. I'm really excited about it. It'll be ready at the end of this year. And my first single is going to be released at the end of March. There's a lot coming up. And then Della May is also touring with Alice Gerard and Lori Lewis for the Hazel Dickens 100th birthday celebration this year. It's going to be so cool.
Yeah, we were just talking about France. So is that what you're doing at the La Roche Festival?
Oh, no, that's just going to be a Della May only show
Just Della
in
May, okay.
France. So
Okay.
I'm so excited. Yeah.
Still. And you're bringing up a good point, which is that there's, I think, a lot more around women in bluegrass, even more lately.
Yes.
And I know part of this topic is about jamming. So I can go to jams and
Yes.
often be the only woman there.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And it happened last week at this fast jam we have up at La Cala in
cool.
Washington Heights. I was the
Nice.
only woman. There were like 15 people there. I was like, where the hell are all the women? So
Yeah.
what's your feeling about that? I want to pick your brain about here you are doing the Hazel Dickens thing. And
Yeah.
tell us about women in bluegrass.
Women in bluegrass. I think that more and more women are cropping up in bluegrass. I mean, there's always been women in bluegrass, but I think right now it's all about visibility. Women are more visible in bluegrass. We're making ourselves seen and making ourselves notice. I think that comes with people like Allison Brown, who's producing the Della May record. She's an incredible banjo player, and she's been kicking ass here in Nashville for years. She owns her own record label and owns her own studio, and she works with Steve Martin regularly. And then people like her, Missy Raines, who is my queen, like my bass queen. I love her so much. So Allison, Missy, Sharon Gilchrist on mandolin, who played with Tony Rice forever, and Sierra Hull, Molly Tuttle's band, Molly Tuttle, including women. I think the visibility of women in bluegrass is at an all-time high, especially because of like social media. Like the women are killing it in the social media area. And so I feel like that's why you're seeing more women on stage. You're seeing more women on stage because it's more normalized. Social media has made women playing music very, very normal. It used to not be that way because in order to be visible in the music industry, you had to have a label. You had to have a PR team. You had to have the perfect kind of marketing. You had to have a radio airplay. And most of that included people taking a chance on women. But right now, we're just taking chances on ourselves, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
remember going to Gray Fox Music Festival. This would have been my first one 12 or 13 years ago now.
Mhm.
And Della May played, and it was like a novelty
Mhm.
to have an all women band be up there playing because there were so few women.
Yeah.
And, fast forward 12 years. So last year, you all were the artists in residence at
Mhm.
Della May, of course. And I monthly would go on the Gray Fox Festival site and be like, who's going to be the artist in residence this year? Don't you think we should
Yeah.
have some women? And I started seeing other people posting that.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of men that did it too. Like, yeah, let's get Della May, let's get Molly Tuttle in there. So
Yes.
that was a big breakthrough, I think, for.
Absolutely. Because of Missy, I wanted to play bass because I saw her playing bass. And there are like great women coming up in the bluegrass scenes and the jam scenes all over because they see Molly on YouTube, because they see Sierra on Instagram, because again, visibility is making it more normal for women and girls to pick up instruments and feel like they can and be inspired to do that. But when it comes to festivals like Gray Fox, an all-female run festival, I freaking love that. I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
But festivals like Gray Fox, say Rocky Grass, or like bigger named festivals, I feel like the folks running the festivals and the promoters I think they underestimate what an audience is ready for and what an audience wants to see. And you speaking up on the Gray Fox page and saying, we want to see women, and then you seeing other folks saying, we would love to see more women on stage, more women given a chance at doing the artist in residence. That's a big job. The artist in residence gig is a really big job. And I mean, I think I slept 10 hours that weekend.
Well, you guys were out there doing jams with people. You didn't come to my side. I was really bummed about that. But
I'm sorry.
you didn't know. I'm just saying, like, I kept
my
imagining
gosh.
you're going to ride down and you're gonna be like, oh, let's go to this one.
Oh,
But you
yeah.
probably would have had to be up at 3 in the morning in order to do that because that's mostly when I'm jamming.
Oh, well, we played the dance tent until like 2 a.m. and then we'd be at Creekside at 10 a.m. Each
Yeah.
day. It was wild. But yeah, I feel like the modern bluegrass audience, festival goers too, are ready. I feel like also they aren't going to realize in a good way, like, oh, that's a woman on stage. Next year or the year after that, it's not going to be so novel anymore. Just like
Yeah.
what you said, when you said you first saw Della Mae, it was novel. An all-female band isn't new anymore, but it's because it first existed and folks like Gray Fox are giving us a chance. It's normalizing women.
Let's talk about jamming a little bit. So
Okay.
you're an amazing bass player, and I've learned some really fun stuff from you. So I think if there are any bass players out there listening, and hopefully there are, what would you say, what a tip or two for if you're a bass player and maybe not the best bass player in the whole world yet and most experienced? I don't want to say best, most experienced. Is there any tips or advice you could give bass players to keeping a jam going well?
I can think of 3 off the top of my head right now whenever I'm teaching at a camp to my bass players. And it's just always lock in with the mandolin. That boom chuck is so important for the bluegrass feel. And it's so important to keep energy up in a song, energy up in the whole jam. Listening, and locking in with the mandolin player. And it seems so simple, but it can be hard. It's kind of hard to get the hang of, which leads to my next point, which is time, meaning like time spent on your instrument, time spent at jams, time spent jamming along in your house by yourself. Time spent on your instrument equals preparedness, equals confidence. There's so many students that I work with that are like, I just want to feel more confident playing my instrument. Well, that just takes time. And that sucks because nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear, like, okay, you're going to have to spend time on it. They want like a one size fits all little piece of advice, but there's not one. The piece of advice that I have is that it just takes time. Like dragging your bass to any jam you can get to. You're going to feel more prepared. First jam's going to be difficult. Your second jam's going to be less scary. Your third jam's going to be, okay, now I'm getting the hang of this. Your fourth jam's going to be fun. Your fifth jam, you're going to feel more prepared than anybody in the room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also, I'm teaching more intermediate or beginner bass players. They always want to say, I don't want to just play the 1-5. Well, the standard bass pattern is 1-5. Oh, and it doesn't have to be boring. And again, listening to the mandolin player and really locking in and really having a pocket, even when it's just 1-5, is fun. And getting that feel down, getting that perfect timing in that pocket with the mandolin player. There's no way you're going to be bored. But also, I feel like a little movement in bass playing is important. But I always tell my students, not more notes, better notes.
Okay.
So instead of putting more notes in, keeping that timing. I'd like to choose maybe 1-3-1-5, 1-3-1, staying on that, keeping that rhythm that you start out with and not adding any extra notes, but choosing different notes. Yeah.
But no filler notes, just on the beat.
Yes.
The 1 to the 3 to the 1 to the 5 to the 1 to the 3, something like that.
Yes, exactly.
Actually, something that I learned from you, Vickie, during our masterclass was sometimes repeating the same note. And I've been doing that. And that's been a lot of fun. And I just like to hear it in the context of the jam. And every once in a while, I'll do something. I'll be like, and people will look at me and I'll be like, you heard that?
Yes.
Oh my
That's
God.
the best. Getting the little nod from the other
right,
folks in the jam, like, I heard that. And it's something so simple as repeating a note that will change the feel of the song.
Yes. What I do is I go to these like jam valves and I borrow other people's upright basses, 'cause people break them but don't use them. And so I borrow them. I actually have a t-shirt. I made this up, but it says on it, I would have a bass if I didn't have a husband.
Yes, I love that shirt. And what's that? Whenever I came to your house to do the class, what was the shirt that your husband had on that I thought
Yeah.
was so funny?
I gave him one for Christmas, says Bluegrass Widower.
Yeah.
And then I put under it, it's 2 a.m. Anyone seen my wife?
Yeah.
That
It was so funny. I still have a picture of it in my phone. I was like, this is so good.
so you're from Kentucky, isn't that right?
I am. Yeah. I live in Nashville, but I'm from Kentucky.
So
Yes.
when did you leave Kentucky? What was
I left Kentucky August of 2007. I moved down here to Nashville.
okay?
So I've been down here. August will be 18 years.
Okay, so that's not too recent that you left.
Officially more time than I've lived in Kentucky.
Yeah.
I moved here when I was 17. It was a big move for me being raised on a farm in the country in Kentucky. Moving to a city was huge, but it's only 2 hours away from where I grew
Oh,
up.
that's not right.
So, and I started out going to school here at Belmont and graduated, got my degree, and I haven't moved. Just lived in Nashville this whole time.
I want to say you were doing piano, is that right?
No, I was doing classical voice.
Classical voice. Okay.
Yeah.
Then you
Which is
sing
wild.
beautifully. I love singing with you too.
Oh, I love singing with you. I told
Yeah.
Kimber that. I was like, Liz is such a good singer. I remember the first time I heard you at a Shokin, I thought you were a camper. We were jamming that first night and you came up to sing. And I was like, oh my gosh, these campers are like have leveled up. They're so good. Like,
Well, all I knew was, oh, this is my big chance to sing with Celia, so I'm going to do it right now.
yes. Oh, so good. It's like y'all are two powerful voices together. And
Yes.
it was beautiful.
All right, I've got one other question for you.
What's that?
Can you think of a good jam anecdote? Something that you could say, there's one time I went to this jam and blah, 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 something happened or somebody played with whatever. I don't know.
Okay, I'm not going to name names, but we both know this person.
Okay.
I was at a jam at Joe Val back when it was in Boston, and I was playing with a band, and I decided to go upstairs and do some jamming with some of the Berkeley Bluegrass kids.
Okay.
And then there was this other guy there, and I'd never met him before. I'd never jammed with him, but I knew his music really, really well. And I was excited to just like be standing in the same circle as him,
Yeah.
And the kids were jamming. I say they're kids, they were like in their 20s and their early 20s, but they were jamming Walls of Time. And I love that song. And I'm a bass with me, but I have a voice. Anyone can participate in a jam. If you can sing, you can participate in a jam. Usually in a jam setting, for those of you who haven't been to a bluegrass jam, if you want to sing 3-part harmony and you know how to sing harmony, somebody's singing the lead, and then I usually wait for somebody to come in on the baritone or the tenor, and then I'll take whatever part is left in the 3 parts. And so homie, he started in on a harmony line, and I was like, oh, okay, I know my part. And so I came in and I was singing it, and he like was switching from the 3rd to the 5th and stepping on my part. He was switching like I wasn't there singing with him or singing with anyone at all, just almost like I was invisible. And I'm like, you're better than that. You're doing this on purpose. And then he did it every chorus, and I'm like, what the heck? And then he looked over at me after the song was over, and he was like, I was doing it like the Monroe version. And I'm like, ugh, that's not what a jam's for. A jam is for collaboration. A jam is for having fun. A jam is so everyone can participate, not just so you can show out that you know the Monroe version. Okay. It was so showy. I will never forget that. And anytime I'm teaching a jam camp or a class, I never say who it is, but I tell that story every time because that's classic what you don't do. It's how you don't act. It's a perfect example of everybody's here to have fun and play together. And just because you can doesn't mean you should ruin the jam with that. You know what I mean? So that's my jam anecdote.
Yeah, that's a good jam anecdote. And it's a really good lesson too, for a couple of reasons. One is, sometimes people say to me, I'm going to the high baritone when I'm supposed to be singing the tenor, because if I'm singing by myself, I can sing whatever harmony line I want, but I have to be really careful when I'm singing with other people. I'm not in a performance and this is not rehearsed. So I need to really be listening to
Stay in
what
your lane.
people are doing, and then stay in your lane. Yeah.
Yeah, staying in your lane vocally at a jam is so important. And the thing is, I know this person who did that really well now, and he was just having his own kind of fun. I love him and we're tight now, but I still use that moment as an example of what not to do at a jam. Yeah, he didn't stay in his lane.
And
Yeah.
the point is, it is about collaboration.
Yeah.
Even if you know the Monroe version, and maybe I've never heard it, but even if you know it, that doesn't mean you should be singing it in that moment, because you got to
Yeah.
be sensitive to the other people, because it's about inclusiveness and bringing
Yeah.
other people in.
Exactly. Jams are highly inclusive, highly collaborative. Not staying in your lane negates the point of jamming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes I call it jam-splaining, where people are
Oh.
explaining how, well, that was the Monroe versions. Like, okay, well, can I explain you something? And like, that's
Yeah.
not what the jam is for, right?
Yeah, one of the reasons I love jamming is because we're going to play a song and hear the song differently than we ever have before. It doesn't matter what the Monroe version was. It doesn't matter what the recorded version was. We're about to make a moment that has never been created.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, really wonderful point. It's how can new music get made if
Yeah.
it's only an imitation of what has already been made?
100%. And that's one of the reasons I love bluegrass in general, is because first off, it was passed down by pawpaws sitting on their porch to their children. It's almost like word of mouth. And now jamming kind of is like that for me. There are plenty of songs that I learned growing up and jams in Kentucky that I've never heard recorded until Spotify came into existence. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know the song because you've heard it 10,000 times by like your cousins. Yeah.
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 That's beautiful. Okay, well, that's one final question I have for you, because you just reminded me. In New York City, you're always going to hear certain songs. Is there
Mhm.
any specific songs that you hear a lot down there, or whether it's Kentucky
Yeah.
or Nashville?
I really love that jams are regional. That's such like an old-fashioned thing. I think
Yeah.
it's so cool that there are different standards per region in America. Down here, everyone plays Squirrel Hunters. And I remember the first time I heard it was in Nashville. We never played that in Kentucky. It's an old-time fiddle tune, and it's cool. But
Okay.
yeah,
I don't
you
even know
gotta
it.
look
I'm
it
never
up.
gonna look
Squirrel
up
Hunters
Squirrel
is the
Hunters.
bomb. Squirrel Hunters is awesome. John Hartford has a good recording of it.
Okay, I'm gonna look that up. Maybe we'll play
You'll
it.
love it.
That's
It's
all right.
it's wacky, but it's fun. It's really fun.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna learn the bass line for it, and then I'm gonna call it at a jam and see if anybody in New York knows
Yeah.
it. I'm gonna do-
Y'all know Squirrel Hunters? Can't
No,
wait to
I'll
hear
be all casual about it. I'll be like, I was thinking about, anybody know Squirrel Hunters? All right, well, you know what? This has been an amazing conversation, because you're an amazing human being and
Aw.
musician. Look up
Liz.
Vickie Vaughn. She's incredible. And you can follow her on Instagram at Vickie Vaughn.
Yeah, it's the
W.
V's are replaced with W's.
Vickie Vaughn on
That's it.
Instagram. How else do you want people to find you and support you?
I can be on Facebook as well. You can find me on there. Usually just Instagram and Facebook works. If anybody has any bass questions, feel free to slide into my DMs and ask. I'm always there checking to see if anybody needs anything. Usually my students, I try to check and make sure that they don't need anything each day. So
Okay, that's
yeah.
great. And we will look for your solo album, your single coming out soon. That'd be
Yes.
great. And
Thanks.
have an amazing summer with all your touring. All right, well,
Thanks
thanks for being on.
Liz. Have fun with Squirrel Hunters.
We're here at Jalopy Theater having a great time with.
Hillary Hawke.
Ross Martin.
Cami House.
Okay, so and tonight you guys are going on stage, going to be performing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Indeed, we're opening for High Horse, which I'm very excited to hear those folks.
Yeah.
Great. So Hillary,
Yes.
how'd you come up with the name of the band?
Well, it's my name, and I thought that it would be really fun to not have to explain the name, but I guess I have to anyway. I don't know. I like leading bands. I feel like I have a good management style, and so I wanted to be in charge of the band, and thankfully I play with two of the nicest people in the world, and they are okay with that too.
That's great. How long are you guys playing together?
That's it, 2 years?
2 years.
2 years?
Yeah.
Minus some time while Cami was away doing a Broadway tour.
What were you touring?
Girl from the North Country.
Uh-huh. I've heard about touring. Not much fun. Not a lot of glamour there from what I hear.
Yeah, a lot of airports.
Yeah, a lot of air. So what brought you guys together? How is it you three found each other?
Well, I feel like I first met you maybe... Wasn't I playing here with Jake's band? And you guys were both here, right? And then we ended up playing a gig shortly after that at Sonny's, right? Is that accurate?
I don't remember any of that. It's all blurred to me.
I remember meeting Hillary right after I got here.
Oh, okay, let me just tell you about how I met Cammie. Okay. So we're talking about Jalopy Theater. We're in here. It's a bluegrass show. It was Jake's show.
I think it was.
Jake Jalopy playing mandolin, and Cammie was at the show. I was at the show. And then after the show was over, Minnie Jordan, who's a bluegrass fiddler here on the scene, said, "Oh, this is my friend Cammie." And I was like, "Hi." And I felt your energy immediately, and I was like, "You want to play with me?"
Wow.
I was just like, you should play sometime. And then you were like, yeah. And then we did, and I was like, that was cool.
Bandmates at first sight.
Yeah, I just knew right away. I felt the energy from Cammie. I've known Ross for a long time, probably like 15 years.
Yeah.
So I already knew that I wanted to play with Ross. And then I thought about the two of them together, and I was like, this is going to be great.
Hey, you guys were warming up a piece when I walked in here. You want to take another crack at the intro so we can get it on?
Yeah, that's probably a good idea since we didn't know what we were doing the first time.
We're double purposing here. We're interviewing and practicing.
All right, still in tune. All right, let's...
Okay.
2, 3, 4.
the name of that?
It's called The Sun Is All Around. It's an original that we wrote for this album that's coming out this year. It's going to be released in the summer.
Okay, let's talk about both those things. First of all, the originals. Who's writing the songs here? Everybody? Or?
Oh, yeah.
Mostly Hillary.
Well, yeah, I'm taking the lion's share of the writing, but Ross has a song in the set tonight. You have a couple songs in the back burner coming too, and Cammie's writing songs. We're going to play one of them tonight as well.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Collaborating on songwriting, it must be rough. I know I write them and I sing them and I play them and I don't get other people involved. It must be pretty tough to do it in a band setting.
Well, at this stage, we've mostly written stuff on our own and brought it in, and then with the tune that I'm doing tonight, you know, these guys just instantly sounded so good on it. We haven't really tried a real collaborative writing thing, which would be fun sometime.
That would totally be fun.
Yeah.
Well, I've been meaning to edit a couple of your tunes.
I have notes.
Like ready.
I have notes.
Let's just cut out that segment. No, I'm just kidding, of course. I've never... No, all your songwriting is great.
So part two, album?
Yeah.
When? What?
It's called Lift Up This Old World, and it's 11 songs, and it's all bluegrass and old-time music. It's all original music in the bluegrass and old-time realm.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be at Hiropa Records, and sometime in the summer. We don't have a date set yet, but yeah, it'll be coming out.
That's awesome. Do you guys tour?
Well, a little bit. We're hoping to tour more. Me and Ross just finished an Ontario tour for 2 weeks, and we're looking to tour more. We're hoping to go to IBMA this year, and we're picking up gigs left and right. So, yeah, that's what we're
I just want to set the scene a little bit. The walls are lined with musical instruments, and we hear the bands warming it downstairs. It's very cool up here.
I just want to say that this is Pat Conti's music collection here. It's his instruments and artifacts, vintage instruments that he collected for a long time, and I think he just wanted to move them in here, so he made more space in his home.
Yeah. I don't know, are there 40 of variously shaped, stringed, and plucked instruments? And
I don't know how many of them work, but they're very cool. If you ever get a chance to come and see this stuff in the upstairs of the Jalopy Theater, come check it out.
Yeah, it is. Speaking of the upstairs, which I understand is also classrooms, you teach here as well, don't you?
Yeah, sometimes, and Cami too. I mostly do workshops here now. Yeah, but I taught here for about 10 years. Great space.
Cami, you currently giving lessons here at the Jalopy?
I have had one student here in the past, but I would love to have some more.
Well, if people were interested in finding out more about your teaching and your stuff, do you have a website?
I do. You can find me on Instagram at Cami Camper. Cami is Camie. And also, I have a website, Camille Mobley House, which is my full name. Good luck spelling it.
We'll find you on Instagram.
Yeah, find me on Instagram.
I think of Jalopy as like the center of gravity for bluegrass, old-time music in Brooklyn here. I'm looking forward to the show tonight. What's after this? What's next?
Well, I think we're kind of just booking shows right now and just kind of taking things in and doing the business side of it right now. That's what's next. Yeah, I'm going to be taking like a month to work on the business side of things and book some shows. Yeah.
So let's talk business. Where can people find you, the band, and if they want to book or they want to find out more?
Well, yes, I hope you do. And it's my name, HillaryHawkemusic.com. Hillary's one L, Hilary, Hawke, Hawke, music.com. And you're going to see videos up there. You're going to see bios of us and find out all the information you want to find out, because you should book us, because we're fun and we're engaging and it's great music. It's music for the people. It's really a great sound. Come out and see us. Oh, we play at Sunny's once a month.
Nice.
Sunny's Bar. So you can come check us out there. We'll be on the calendar. That's our main local show.
That's how we built a lot of the repertoire, is just playing that, adding some new tunes each time.
Yeah.
But I understand that you're going to be doing some old-time clawhammer type of playing tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you got in store for us?
There's a big difference in the performance of old time and bluegrass. But in actual, I feel like the music can be very similar, but the performance side of it is very different, you know?
Yeah.
We're going to be doing some rowdy, kind of up-tempo, fun, old-time tunes, some original tunes in that style, and I think you're gonna find that it's all just good music, you know.
Well, I gotta say, I came up here to see you guys, and I walked in, you were already playing, and it was mesmerizing and interesting, and I really was happy to get to hear it. So I'm glad our listeners will get to hear some of that. So thank you guys very much for your time.
Thank you.
Let you get ready for the show.
Thank you.
Here we are with Melody Berger, master fiddler.
Hello.
Hi, and host at Mathilda's Bluegrass Jam and a bunch of other stuff we're going to talk about. So how are you doing today, Melody?
I'm quite well. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here talking with you. I got to say before we start, for the sake of the listeners, if you ever get a chance to get down to Mathilda's on Fifth Avenue between 20th and 21st,
It's right there at the corner of 20th and 5th Avenue on the same block as Luigi's Pizza, which is my favorite pizza and the best in New York City, if not the world. Every week we have a little pizza party.
better than the pizza is the fiddle playing. You got to get down there and hear this. So if you're in Brooklyn or near Brooklyn or plan to be in Brooklyn or can spell Brooklyn, you really got to get down to Mathilda's. But before we get to all that, Melody, tell us a little bit about your origin story. How'd you get started in music?
I started playing when I was 5.5 with the Suzuki method. I did classical for years and years and years. I studied violin and voice in college. And then I took a break from playing. Friends were playing at this anarchist bar in West Philly with a band called the Flat Possum Boys. And my friend Jim was at the time, he was like, yeah, you should bring your violin and jam with us. I was like, oh, I don't like country. I don't think that's for me. And then I actually went and I listened to it, and it was like listening to an old-timey, crackly record. This is wonderful. This is magical. And I got the bug. I moved to New York a couple years after that and just got really into the bluegrass scene here, which is a thriving community. And I'm happy to be a part of it this whole time. I feel like the Mathilda session is two of my communities coming together because it's 3 blocks from my house.
Right.
So it's my Brooklyn community. And it's also my bluegrass community meeting my neighborhood community. It's been a really special thing.
When did you show up here in New York? Just to place it approximately.
Like 2007 or 8.
Right.
Yeah, I've been here around 17 years and in South Park Slope for a little over 14 of them.
Can you quickly contrast for us the bluegrass scene you found in 2008 or so and what we have today?
They're the steadfast things that are constants, you know, like Rick, of course, started the Mona's Jam just a couple years into me living here. I had been doing a jam near there before that once a month at this place called Banjo Jams. And the sheriff had his jam every Wednesday, and I was in the house band for that. I would help
Right.
do that jam. Yeah, so you have people coming and going, but it's always been thriving, and I feel like it's just gotten stronger and stronger while I've been here. And it's pretty crazy to look at people that you've been picking with this whole time and be like, oh, wow, I've known you for nearly 20 years.
Yeah.
This madness. It's a constant in an ever-changing city, which I enjoy.
Pretty incredible. I've heard from a lot of people that this
Yeah.
scene has grown, and maybe the inclusion of maybe less professional people who can get involved and then develop their skills and become better. And it's all pretty amazing, the level of community. I know at Delia's, we have some folks who come out on Wednesday night just to hear us. And I talk to them and they're amazed when I tell them, no, most of us don't know all the songs that we play. Someone gets up and says, we'll play Old Home Place and gives us a quick description and we just follow along and get it. I have no idea what's going on or where I am. So I'm just going to,
That's what's happening.
I'm going to just scratch.
That's kind of the funny thing about music in general. When you're on a gig, there's the joke of, let me introduce the band. Bass player, Mike, meet the banjo player. This is for It's sort of a rule of thumb to avoid saying hi and introducing yourself to someone on stage because they're like, oh, well, you're not a real band. You don't practice together and live in a
Right.
together. No, it's music. It's a language that we all speak. So I can say, this is a song that we all know, and here are the chords for it, and we can play it together, and it's not that big a stretch.
It's pretty amazing. And the community is so inclusive. You sit in the jam. This happened to me the other week, and some mandolin player walked up next to me, and he sounds really good. And Christian looks up and says, oh, Mr. Jalopy, do you want to take a break? Oh, Jake shows up, and I didn't recognize him. And you never know.
Affiliate?
Or all of a sudden, this incredible fiddle player lets loose, and it's Claire. And yet afterwards, I go introduce myself. Everyone's open. Everyone's willing to talk and say hi.
When I first crossed over to bluegrass from classical, that was one of the things that really struck me was like just how accessible people in the genre are. Like the biggest names in the bluegrass world are going to be available to meet you and shake your hand afterwards at their merch table at a festival.
You're thinking that these are people who could be standoffish or otherwise inaccessible, as you put it. No, it's a great community. Who would be on your bluegrass Mount Rushmore for fiddle? Choose 4 that you would say, yeah, there's a million incredible players, but these are the 4 that had the most impact on me, or I'm most impressed with, or I vibe with the best.
Well, God, it's so hard. Of people currently playing, I love Jason Carter. I love Michael Cleveland. Are my 2 of my faves, and the fact that they're playing a bunch of shows together now is a pretty exciting collaboration.
Yep.
I love Brittany Haas. Yeah, she's wonderful. Bronwyn Keith Hines is very exciting. Classic fiddlers. When I first was crossing over from classical, I listened to like everything Kenny Baker recorded.
Yes.
He's just so great. And then I would listen to Highwood String Band and like get like the old time fiddle too. There's a bunch of people out there. If we could put a few more fiddle, maybe just not just 4, or maybe include 7. I would have a very nice Fiddle Mountain monument.
What Harry Clark started the idea of saying my number 4 is going to be a Frankenstein mashup of 2
Exactly.
mandolin players. So he mashed together David Grisman and Sam Bush into one person. Said, that's my Frankenstein Number 4. It's a tough question because, fiddle players, I could name 20 off the top of my head that I admire, I listen to, and idolize. But to pick 4,
Exactly. I didn't even say Bruce Molsky, and he's so great.
Bruce is incredible. Well, thank you for that. So let's come around to Mathilda. If our listeners don't yet know, they should. Wednesday night starts about 9:00.
No, Mathilda, we start around 8:15.
Okay.
We have a house band and we rotate people in, sort of a curated session around one mic. And I usually just say 8 to late, but the
Mhm.
breakdown is more like 8:15 to 9:30. Then we get a pizza break.
Mhm.
And Luigi comes and we all have a pizza party for half an hour, and then we go 10 to 11:30.
That's nice.
Yeah,
There's plenty of time.
if there's a spontaneous after session, that's also great.
Yeah.
The microphone goes off before midnight, and that's
Right.
the cutoff we have.
For the sake of the neighbors. The distinction I see here is we have slow and medium jams, like we hosted Delia's. Everybody, come on in, play. And I know there's fast jams, but I don't even know if I'd call Mathilda's a fast jam. It's sort of hybrid called a session, where it's really a house band and A-list players are the ones who go up on stage.
Yeah, I mean, if I see people walk in with an instrument, most of the time I know them if they walk in with an
Mhm.
instrument. If I don't know them, I go up and say hi and ask them what their background is. And I'll say, okay, we'll have you come up and sing a song. But it is different than just a big circle jam, which they are also fun. And I feel like every type of jam has its place in
Right.
the bluegrass community. This is more like the microphone kind of focuses at a jam. More what Michael Dave says when he does a jam, or at Mona, the one mic means it's clear who we should be listening to now,
Right.
because we push them towards the mic and they do their thing. It's been really great. It's very musically satisfying and a lovely hang as well.
Well, I'll tell you, having sat on the other side of the mic, so to speak, hearing it,
Yeah.
it's a great show. It's clearly not like you guys live in a house together and meditate and visit ashrams together necessarily, but certainly when it's time to play Old Home Place or Blue Virginia Blue, it comes across great.
Thank you.
Yep. Delia's on Wednesday nights, which starts at 6, so we're kind of have a little overlap, but mostly we finish and then we come up and listen to you guys.
I can always tell there's like an influx of people with instruments. I'm like, hey, there you are.
I wanted to do something a little more than just let's sit around a circle and jam for 3 hours, which is great. If that's all we did, it would be fine. But the idea of a featured performance where somebody preps a set list, shares it with a house band in advance. So you're going to go up there and do a half hour or so set with a band that kind of knows what you're going to play. And if there's a really hot player who happens to be there at 6 and they want to come and join the band, come on in. So it's not like shut up, sit down, listen, but
Sure.
it's also not completely jammy. One of the most musically enhancing experience I've had is the recital. Because what you do is prepare songs from the very beginning and how are you going to start it? Where are the breaks? How many verses? You have to think about everything. And I'm not necessarily someone who's going to be called up on stage at Mona's or Mathilda's to play yet. I say yet, but it gives the people the opportunity to say, oh, I got to think about a set list. What 6 songs go together? And what key do I want to do? How do I want to structure them? So people have a great time with it. And I get to go to Mathilda's and see the professional version of that.
Yeah, the recitals are great because there's nothing like shoving a little baby bird out of the nest and be like, okay, we're going to play in front of people. We're playing in your living room practicing, but now let's put other factors in there, like humans looking at you.
And a microphone.
Yeah.
I went to the Delfest Academy in Cumberland, which they hold for 4 days before Delfest, which is an awesome
Yeah.
festival. But
So
they're-
I went to Delfest once and it was the best.
Yeah.
And I heard nothing but great things about the academy.
And one of the classes they gave, which unfortunately they called the microphone class, which was kind of like, huh? No, they set up everything from like the cheapest possible dynamic mic to the most awesome $5,000 condenser mic. And you sing and play into each one. They record you. And they just talk about sound engineering, what's involved, why. And then they play the recordings back for you in the main hall. And you hear what you sound like on all these different mics. Oh, man, I learned a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Audio techniques.
Well, you find out how important the sound person is, that's for sure.
Yes.
Why don't we turn our attention a little bit to what's coming up at the Fringe Festival? Tell
Yeah.
us what you did and when you did it and when we're going to hear it and all that stuff.
So I'm music directing a bluegrassy musical in the Fringe Festival this year. It's called The End of All Flesh, written by two-time Tony Award winner Greg Cotis, who wrote You're in Town. During the pandemic, Greg's wife, Greg and Ann are in the show, Ann got Greg a banjo. And so that became like his pandemic obsession. Some people like got really into making sourdough bread, and
Yep.
Greg the banjo, and then really stopped going to the barber, so his hair got all like unkempt and he had a huge beard going on. And so that led to him writing an apocalyptic bluegrass musical called The End of All Flesh. The last 4 people on Earth are on a mountain, and drama and shenanigans ensue. And there's a full bluegrass band. I'm on fiddle and mandolin. And my friend Steven is on guitar and accordion, hopefully, on one song. And we have Marty Eisenberg on bass. Rehearsals have been going really well. And we have 4 performances at the Wild Project in the East Village. Wednesday, April 2nd, Friday, April 11th, Friday, April 18th, and Sunday, April 20th, which is Easter Sunday.
Nice.
Nothing says Happy Easter like the apocalypse.
Is there a website or a link that people can access to get more information?
Yep. I don't have it in my head.
I'll put that in the program notes and
Okay.
make sure people know how to find you. Now that you're music directed and Fringe Festival and set up Mathilda's, and so what's next for you?
I'm a freelance musician, and every month is something different. Like right now, I'm music directing at The End of All Flesh. It's so fun. I'm also in an improv comedy troupe with Greg and Ann called The Wayfaring Strangers.
Amazing.
We improvise a bluegrass musical at each of our shows, and it's very, very deeply silly. And it brings me a lot of joy. And I'm also writing the music for a theater piece about Typhoid Mary.
Upbeat, happy face type of stuff.
Yeah, I only go for like the happiest of things. So I'm a little busy right now.
That's good.
But then in the summer, of course, that's when all the bluegrass festivals start and the wedding season. So that's the craziness that will ensue then. But yeah, I basically just try to make as much theater and art and music as possible with my time on this planet.
Well, got to get down to Mathilda's and listen to Melody play fiddle. It's amazing. And
Thanks.
yeah, and there's other amazing musicians there, but if you're any sort of fiddle fan, well worth the trek. All right. So thank you so much for your time today, Melody. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike. And I hope to see you at Mathilda again soon.
That was an amazing episode. So much fun speaking with these women, learning what they're up to, and of course their bandmates, and just the scene that's happening and all the music. Very excited because we're going to continue having all this fun at Jam Jersey. I want to highlight in this moment to say that I've scheduled a Women's Voices Jam. So anyone is welcome to come. It's always all inclusive, but I am really excited to have the women that are going to be at Jam Jersey come sing and play together. So don't forget, that's happening April 4th through 6th in the exotic place called Mahwah, New Jersey at the Doubletree. Get on to bluegrassjamsnearme.com/Jam Jersey and come join the fun.
That's great. So our next episode, we take Bluegrass Brooklyn on the road. We'll be in Charlotte, North Carolina, where we're going to meet all kinds of interesting people, attend a jam, meet a master fiddle maker, and other things that are going to be a lot of fun. So thanks a lot for joining us. Hopefully we'll see you around the jam circle.
See you then.
We're listening to Squirrel Hunters on the album John Hartford Presents A Wild Hog in the Brush and a bunch of others you may not have heard.